Welcome back, Shockers, to another episode of Care Talks with your host, Ashlyn. Today, we're going to be talking about mindfulness and different coping skills to help you get through the rest of the semester. So let's go right on ahead and jump on in. So to talk to you guys a little bit about mindfulness. Mindfulness is really just kind of a self check-in with yourself, is keeping your thoughts in the present moment. I know for a lot of us, especially for me, when I was thinking of my academics, I was always several days, weeks, maybe even months ahead, right? I was thinking, oh my gosh, okay, finals is this day, and I've got all of these assignments coming up, and I need to make sure that I get everything done. And that's kind of when mindfulness comes in, because at that point, you start to feel overwhelmed. Your thoughts kind of start to take over. Sometimes your emotion might start to take over, right? We get anxious. We maybe start to panic and worry a little bit more. And then all of that just compounds and increases our stress. And when our stress increases, our ability to focus decreases. Our ability to study to our full potential might decrease. And sometimes we might notice other changes, right? That we're not taking care of ourselves like we used to, staying hydrated, eating relatively healthy food, not going to McDonald's for every lunch or dinner. And those type of things are kind of when we need to start checking in. That's kind of our body and our mind's way of saying, okay, I'm stressed, I'm overwhelmed, and I need to handle it in a different way than how I am handling it. So one of the first things that I want to bring up to you guys that really helped me, the circle of control. So essentially, the circle of control is it helps you put things into perspective on what you can control and what you can't control. So keeping that in mind, some things that we can control. We can control how much water we drink. We can control how much studying we do. We can control what we're going to wear that day, those type of things, right? So that's your inner circle. Then there's a circle outside of that, and that's kind of your influence sphere. And that's things that you can't quite control, but maybe you have a little bit of influence on. So you may not be able to control the format of the test, right? But you've experienced maybe a test in the class before. And so you kind of know the outline of it. You're like, okay. And so maybe you say, today I'm really just going to focus on studying this section. And then the next day I'm going to study this section. Or maybe something that you can kind of influence is how the teacher responds to you just a little bit, right? So for example, I know I get a lot of students who come to me and they're like, I'm really worried about this. I need to talk to my teacher, but I haven't reached out. Reach out to your teacher. Let them know. Keep them in the loop and be honest. You don't have to spill the beans. You don't have to tell them your whole life story, but keep them in the loop and be honest about it. And you're more likely to get them to support you and accommodate you than if you didn't at all. While we can't control what the faculty or the professor is going to respond or what they will say, we can influence that by our portion of control by reaching out to them when we need to. The last circle is that outside circle. So you've got 3 different circles. And the outside circle is stuff we can't control. We can't control or change the past. We can't control the future. So no amount of worrying, no amount of anxiety is going to change the future. And so like the weather, right? Or if our car has a flat tire, as I mentioned, kind of the future and the past, other people's thoughts and perceptions. Everyone has their own reality. You may have said something to somebody and meant it one way and they took it another. And that doesn't mean that you did anything wrong, because that's that person's perception of it. That's their reality. And so kind of what the circle of control really does at the end of the day is to not only help you put things in perspective and help kind of keep things in the present, prioritize things, not in the past, not in the future, kind of in this nice middle ground, but it also helps you learn to be okay with it. It's okay that you can't control everything. It's okay that maybe you can't influence everything. And it's okay if other people maybe take what you said or did wrong, or they don't quite understand what it is that you're meaning or saying or doing. It's okay. And I think that's one of the hardest parts, is just being okay with things that you can't control, but also it means accepting things that you can. So for example, as I mentioned, no amount of worry or stress can change the future. Some of that worry and stress, like for example, finals coming up. If you're worried about finals and you're like, man, I didn't do the best on midterms, I really want to do that, I'm worried about my finals. Now is a time that you can influence it by saying, okay, what's a study plan that I need? Or maybe you need to talk to the teacher, get a success coach, go to tutoring. These are things that if you are worried about some of those things in the future, you can put them into perspective and have a plan to help hopefully influence and control those outcomes. So practice the circle of control and remember that it's gonna be okay. Things do work out. You have survived everything up until now, and you will continue to do so. Stay strong, stay resilient, practice your circle of control, and we will see you on the next episode of Care Talks.